Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock on a Saturday, which means it's time for a Talk Magic. Now, I've been doing Talk Magic interviews now since, I don't know, 2020. I've done hundreds of interviews. I've interviewed some of the biggest names in Magic. I can pretty much guarantee that the person that I am interviewing today, you have never heard of before. And that's because he's not a kind of a creator in Magic. He's not somebody who has forged a name for himself by being like a lecturer or winning Britain's Got Talent or something like that. But what this person has got is a very interesting career. You see, as well as loving magic and being involved in magic, the person that I'm going to be talking to today is also a professional ghostwriter. That's right, a professional ghostwriter. And he wants to talk, and I'm going to be fascinated to hear about this, about how more magicians should be writing books for the general public and how he and other ghostwriters like him could help that happen. And I'm all about on this channel getting more people into magic, getting more people excited about magic, helping the magic community grow. And as soon as I found out about this person, I wanted to interview him. I think it's going to be the most unique interview on this channel. But we're going to find out because we're going to go into this right now. Allow me to introduce to you Mr. Joe Turner. How you doing, Joe?
Hi, Craig. Thank you for that very mysterious introduction. I do appreciate it, and it's all
Well,
very accurate too. So that's very cool. Yeah.
yeah, this is going to be a very mysterious interview, I think, Joe, because
Yes, it will.
I normally when I interview people, I know exactly what's coming up. Even if it's someone
Yeah.
whose career I'm not aware of, I can kind of guess where the conversation's going to go. I have no idea what's going to happen here. I've got
Who
no
knows? Yeah.
clue. Because you're probably the first
Yeah.
person I've interviewed on this channel where magic isn't your main thing. Your
No.
main thing is something completely different. But I do think, and having spoken to you, I know you agree as well, there's a crossover between ghostwriting and magic. And that's something I want to get into.
Hmm.
But we need to give everyone a frame of reference, first of all. We need to tell people who you are, what
Okay.
it is that you do, and also, most importantly, how you kind of got into magic and how you got into ghostwriting
Okay.
as well. So normally I find out have people got
Okay.
into magic, but I think because we're going to be talking an awful lot about your role as an author, I think we should
Hmm.
kind of look at both roles. So tell me,
Okay.
Joe, how did that all come to be? When did you find out magic? When did you decide you wanted to be an author? Take us back. Tell us your origin story.
Okay. Well, quite interestingly, the two are quite linked as well. So I got into magic about 2008, 2009. So I was quite late to the party. So I would have been in my early 20s at the time.
Hmm.
And I was going around a car boot sale. So, and, for any Americans reading listening to this, car boot sale is a garage sale, a flea market kind of thing, where people just sell crap out of their car boots, quite literally. And I found a DVD, and it was sorry. Well, what I used to do was I used to go around car boot sales and buy up first edition Stephen King books and sell them on eBay. So that was kind of my grift at the time. And I bought this box of Stephen King books, and amongst them was a DVD that I don't think the owners realised was in there, and it was the classical magic of Michael Vincent, right? And I thought I had no clue what it was, so I played it, and immediately I was hooked. He did this coin routine at the beginning, and I was like, wow, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And at the time, I didn't know much about magic at all. I just kind of knew the big names like Dave Copperfield, Penn and Teller, and stuff like that. I was like, wow, this is awesome. So I got into it, and I started trying to do these moves that was learnt in this quite advanced DVD. And bear in mind, I'd never picked up a coin or deck of cards in my life at that point, and I just got hooked right there and then. Um, and then the writing career started probably a couple of years later, about 2010 or so. And what I did was well, at the time I was kind of working as a freelance reporter, where I was kind of a journalist. And I was on this TV show, this true crime TV show, um, and there was a producer there who is a quite famous British crime author, right? And I was there, and there was this deck of cards like in this waiting room area, and I started doing magic. And she came over to me and said show me that trick again. And I said, that would be breaking the magician's code because you should never do the same trick twice. So I did another trick for her, and it was just a simple, it was a force and a double lift, and then it appeared in my pocket or something. Um, and she goes, okay, that was good. And she took me to one side and said, I'm doing a book, crime thriller novel, and one of the characters in there is a magician. And she goes, would you be able to help me with some ideas? So I
Mm.
said, yeah, absolutely. And then at the time, I thought nothing would come of it. I just thought it was one of those things that you talk about and then nothing ever happens. And then I went home. The next day, I got an email of her, and we started talking. It went from there. And then looking back, this next part is was probably quite an offensive thing to do, but I just started writing up the novel for her. I just threw some ideas down on a page and I sent them off to her. And she said, you know what, I love this. And then from that point, I ended up writing the whole book for her. And that was how I got into ghostwriting. And it's really weird because most people who get into this career always say like, oh, they struggled for years. You know, they had to submit 100 manuscripts before anyone took a chance on them. And I just kind of got into it with a force, a riffle force, and a double lift and a top change. So
Amazing.
weird is that? Yeah,
That's
I
what,
know.
so what were you doing before you were in your 20s when this happened, your early 20s?
Yeah, yeah,
What
yeah,
were you doing
yeah.
before this? Like, was writing like something that you enjoyed doing, or were you into like any
Oh,
sort of creative writing, or where did this come from?
I, I was into it. I was a freelance reporter, and I'd not long finished uni, Open University, and I did like writing stories, and I did kind of do a lot of true crime writing at the time for the pieces I was working for, the publication I was working for. So I was never like it was never like a huge part of my life. I just kind of liked doing it, and then I realised I had a natural apt for it, and somehow the first thing I did ended up becoming a I wouldn't say bestseller, but a pretty successful book for this semi-famous author. So to say I was lucky would be an understatement, but that's the general origin story of how it started, and then from there it just the publisher that she worked for, Headline Publishing, I got in with them, and then I did some more books. I did another book for that same author, then one for another one, and it just was a snowball effect from there. And
To be
I'm
honest,
still
I
kind of
didn't even
riding it.
think
So yeah,
I didn't
I know
even
it's kind of
think
weird.
that it is. I didn't even think that being a ghost
Yeah,
author was a valid job. I probably sound like those people that say, I can't believe that
yeah,
you can be a magician, a professional magician.
yeah,
Like, I'm doing the same thing. I don't know the industry, and I'm saying, can you make a living out of it? Because from my
yeah,
point of view, from a business point of view, how do you market yourself? Because the whole point of being a ghost
yeah,
author is people don't know that you're attached to that project. They don't
yeah.
know that
We're
you
the
actually authored it. So how do you go? How do you promote your services when you can't
we're
actually
the
talk about what you've done?
we are the invisible hand, so we have to stay behind the scenes. But the way it works for me now, it's weird. People will find ghostwriters in different ways. Like some people will have their go-to ghostwriter. Like it might just be another author who's already pretty well known themselves, and they use them. It could be that. But in my case, I work for four publishers in the UK, and I work directly with them. Two of the big four publishers, and then two medium-sized publishers. So if any author on their books says to them, I need some help finishing this novel, then those publishers will come directly to me. So it's hard to find me through like a mainstream channel. It has to be done through the publishers. That's just in the UK. In America, I've got a literary agent. So any publisher in America that needs a ghostwriter will go to the agents. Then the agents will come to people on their books, and one of them might just be me. But there is, I mean, I do advertise on my website and stuff. And I've mentioned it on social media and stuff like that, and people do find me that way as well. And that's the rarest like approach that I get. It's rare that just an individual comes to me and says, "Can you help me write this book?" However, when it does happen, I absolutely love it because there's so much more freedom when you work directly with another professional in whatever sphere they're in. You're not constrained by like corporate barriers or anything like that. It's just freedom, two creatives working together, and it's always a fantastic result. And that's what I'm hoping to achieve with this. So yeah, but yeah, I
Wow.
do. Sorry, I do sometimes brush past. I talk about it so much that I do sometimes brush past areas that I don't realize people not in the industry don't realize. So if I brush past anything you deem important, please stop me and pick me up on it. So
Well, no, I'm finding the whole thing fascinating. So before we get to the magic, let me ask you another question. So what you said that sometimes publishers will bring you in to finish somebody's novel.
yeah,
What percentage of the work that you get is sort of almost like fixing something or adding to
good
somebody else's
question.
novel versus being asked to do the whole thing yourself?
Good question. It's you rarely get asked to just like fix someone else's novel. You usually you either do the whole thing yourself or you work collaboratively with with the author to do it from start to finish. So it's like I'll people think that ghostwriters are just like there's a little bit of element of magic in this because it's people think that it's like we're selling the illusion of someone else's work on the page, but it's not really like that. It's like if somebody utilizes a ghostwriter, there's a reason they need a ghostwriter. It's not just that they just can't be bothered to do the book themselves. It's like the example I used earlier, the first one I ever did. I got to write that book in total from start to finish because the author was quite ill. Right, she had a spine problem, and so she couldn't sit at a desk for many hours a day. So she was ill basically. So she utilised someone else to do it. That's quite common, as weird as it sounds. Another common reason we use is that a lot of the authors I work with, because I work in the crime and thriller niche, a lot of the authors have day jobs, right? Because believe it or not, writing a book it doesn't make you a millionaire straight away, or ever, So they earn probably like a normal wage. So a lot of them have day jobs as well. And because I'm in the crime niche, a lot of the authors have crime adjacent jobs, like detectives or lecturers or judges or lawyers, stuff like that. So because they're busy with their day jobs, they can't fulfill a deadline requirement. They're like, oh, I've got marking to do. I'm lecturing for the next 2 months. I haven't got time to finish this novel. That's when they might bring me in. The third, probably the most common reason that we use is because an author is burnt out. I mean, how many times have you been burnt out at your job and you've just gone like, you know what, this is too much. I can't do it. My head is blocked. That I can't think of anything to do this. I'm halfway through a book that's got to be in 2 weeks' time. I can't do it. And that's when they might come to me, and that's when we take over. So, so just fixing a book is quite rare. 95% of the time, we start from scratch and do the whole thing, but we will do it often a collaborative format. We might write 10,000 words, send it across to them. They might suggest some changes. They might suggest a major plot change for the next section. They send it back. We carry on from there. So it's usually a collaborative process from start to finish. Yeah.
Wow. And
Yeah.
obviously, you've been doing this so long now that you are, you're very good at what you do. My question
Thank you.
is, have you ever like thought, you know what, I'm doing this for so many other people. Why don't like why wouldn't you become an author yourself and
Yeah,
have your name out there?
that's a good question, and that question does come up. And I do have I think I've got 6 books of my own. I've got 4 fiction books, 2 true crime books, and I've got another true crime book coming out in a couple of months' time under my own name. So that's quite good. But the not so glamorous truth about that is that you don't make that much money from your own books if you're a no-name author. And I basically am a no-name author. Like there's to me it's kind of like it's like music. Like the top bands of the festival, the big names will make hundreds of thousands of dollars or pounds for like one show. And the next band down will make like a fraction of that, and then it just gets lower and lower. And it's the same with authors. Like the Stephen Kings and the Patricia Cornwells of the world will be making probably 200 grand advances from their novels. The next tier down is probably making about you know anything between 2 grand to 10 grand per novel, and it's not that lucrative unless you can pump out novels at lightning speed. And that's something else I could mention. One of the reasons why I've managed to somehow make a success of this weird industry is that I can pump out novels quite fast. Like on average, I think I do about 8 books a year. So it's about one book every 6, 7 weeks. So it's a lot of people say there's no way you can do a book in that time, but I can. I just get into some weird little headspace and I just sort of do it, get it all done. So that's aided me well because the initial payment from the books is more lucrative than actually doing books under my own name, unless I was a massive best-selling author, which is pretty impossible to achieve in this day and age when we're so saturated with novels. So yeah, that's the main reason. Yeah.
That's incredible. And here's another question. Um, I can't relate to writing, obviously, because I'm not a writer, but um, just like your industry, magic is a creative industry as well, and I do create magic tricks. And I have
Yeah.
experienced over the course of my life a couple of times, like a creative block, like just like I'm trying to sit there and come up with something like nothing's happening. Obviously,
Mhm.
you guys have sort of writer's block, same sort of thing. As somebody whose job is to pump out books, not just for you, but for other people, is that something that ever concerns you or worries you?
Yes, a little bit. I mean, I've always been quite lucky in that regard that I don't really have writer's block because there's an old quote from I can't remember who said it actually. It said, "Why would I get writer's block? Because plumbers don't get plumber's block. You just have to go out and get it done, you know." So I always think of that, and I'm quite lucky in that I can always because a book is just about getting from A to B. I always think a book is just about getting from A to B in the most creative and readable way possible. To me, that's all a book is, you know. Um, and I've always been pretty good at getting from A to B. Really, the the overall hook of the story that you sometimes have trouble with that, but again, I can usually craft a story from any kind of hook. Like just yesterday, I read something about an Egyptian mummy being found in a car park somewhere, and straight away I could think of a million ways to turn that into a murder mystery novel. You know, so it's just like a little hook. And I'm apt to say this, but magic has been a huge influence on my books as well. So if you ever read a crime fiction book with an element of magic in there, it's probably me that did. Because there's so many like I've probably used the serial killer magician trope about 3 or 4 times now. And the other day I was just trying to do one about a psychic murderer as well. So that's gonna be pretty fun to take some stabs, you know,
Yeah.
psychic industry. So I've never really had too much trouble with that myself. But I'm lucky in that regard.
Well, as you brought up magic, let's talk about that. Like you talked about how your big break in this industry was doing a card trick. Obviously, you love magic. You know, we're going to talk about that now, but have you ever
Mhm.
been a professional performer? Have you ever had any aspirations to take magic to a particular level, or has it always been kind of a hobby stroke kind of side thing for you?
It's always been a side thing until very recently. So
Right.
the past year or so, I have started doing close-up gigs, right? Um, and all because just I love magic so much, and I got asked to do a few gigs, and saying no just felt wrong. You know, it's like I have to do this. You know, I have to try and appease, you know, tribute to the men people that I love so much. And I agreed to do them. The thing was, when I started in magic, it was I needed a lot of mentorship, right? Now, I've never had this with any other kind of creative endeavor I've ever undertaken. I always felt a little bit like an imposter, you know? I never felt like I was good enough to be one of the, one of the in crowds, you know? Because I thought, right, so you sat at home, you got a deck of cards, you learnt the moves, and that was all you had to do. And then you went and did those moves out when you were in performing. And I realized it's not quite like that at all. It's like the conditions of performance so different to the conditions of just
Yeah.
practicing at home, you know. And I found that I needed quite a bit of help and lecturing and mentorship, really. Um, and because I think in my head I built magic up as this like big deal. You know, I built it up as this kind of like, oh God, what if you get it wrong? You know, what if you fail? Everyone's going to laugh at you. You're never going to live it down. That's the end of your life. And then after a while, I realized it's not that big of a deal. If something goes wrong, you're just there to entertain for 5 minutes. Um, so I did kind of had to mentally come around to the whole that side of the psychology side of things. And so I do want to take it to the next level. And I do have a stage gig in a month's time, which I'm very scared about. So because I don't know anything, so I've had to quickly go and buy like about 5 or 6 tricks from Alakazam and Penguin just to that I can perform on stage that don't require me to do any kind of crazy slouts. But thank God for Sean Farquhar. That's all I'm going to say because he sorted me out.
Well, if anybody will, Sean will. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
amazing.
and the book test, I've got a perfect segue into the book test. So it's it's like yeah, I can't say I wrote it then. I can't claim ownership of this book. Yeah. Wish I could. Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's so funny. So would you ever what like if this became more of a thing and you started doing more close-up jobs and you started doing more stage gigs, would you eventually kind of maybe is that an aspiration of yours? Are you wanting to move forward in that area as well as what you're doing?
You know what? I would love that lifestyle. I'm just not sure of how realistic it is. Like, because I think I mean, millions of professional magicians, and the best of the best. I'm confident that I say I would never be as good as those guys. I will never be up there. Now, I'm thinking, does that matter? Do you have to be the best? Do you have to have the best sleights in order to make a career out of magic? So I don't know, but like I do love writing so much that I wouldn't want to give it up. Really, I'd still always want to keep it there. But I've always thought that like writing would be the cake and magic would be the icing on the cake. And you put those two together and you got a pretty tasty professional life.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would like it if there was if I had to give up writing, then magic would be the next thing in line. I hope.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. And that brings
Yeah.
us, well, that brings us, we're going to talk to that about that a little bit more, but that brings us to something that you think more magicians should be doing. And that's
Yes.
why we connected. Do you want to talk about that side of things? Would that be okay?
Yeah, of course. Right. So as I was saying earlier, usually if I'm getting contracted for a job, it comes through either publishers or the literary agents. But occasionally I do get cold approached by individuals, right? And these individuals usually they want, I don't want to say an autobiography written, but they want something written about their experiences in life, right? And I love it when these jobs come about. And I get contacted by it's usually like people that have done something like performers, like actors, actresses, musicians, athletes, sportsmen, people like that come to me, and they want something written about, or they want help writing their memoirs, basically. Um, the one type of performer that has never come to me in all my years of doing this is the humble magician, and I would love to know why that is. Now, of course, well, actually, as a quick aside, I was talking to the biographies, head of biographies at Macmillan Publishing. They're one of the big four in the UK. And I said, how often do you get submissions from manuscripts from magicians? And she said, in 18 years, I've had one. I had one from an honor. Like, and apart from the guys like Darren Brown and Dynamo and David Blaine, like the celebrities, that's a different story. But just the average everyday magician never seems to cross paths with me in this niche, which is really strange because I mean, I get why a magician wouldn't want to write about themselves. I should say, in this case, I'm talking about a book by a magician for a general reader, for a lay audience, right? Now, there are enough books about magic for magicians, right? Instruction books and stuff like that. There's enough of them, and I'm not necessarily talking about them, but it could relate to that as well. Um, so there are so many like books by these other m- performance mediums, people in these other performance arts, that are so eager to get their thoughts down on the page and get into a book for whatever reason. But the magician never seems to want to. And I'm really curious why, because I don't understand why. Now I do get that a magician wouldn't want to reveal their secrets to a general audience, but I'm not really talking about it in that case. I'm talking because like I've learned, and I'm sure you know this better than me, magic can teach you so much about just life in general, right? It can teach you philosophy, artistry, plot crafting, charisma, stage charisma, just being present in the moment. It can teach you about business. And I'm wondering why there aren't, if there are books, I don't know about them, why there aren't any books about this that are aimed at people that want to learn these kinds of things that magic teaches you within that could apply to their own life. Um, does that make any kind of sense? Am I being crazy?
No, no, no. I mean, it's an interesting concept. I mean, there's magic books, obviously, that have been released to the general
Yeah,
public, and Nick Einhorn was big responsibly, responsible for a lot of that. And then when somebody becomes famous in magic, they'll
yeah,
tend to release a book that's part
yeah.
autobiographical and part sort of trick based. So you look at Dan Rhodes,
Yeah.
who's pretty big all over YouTube. He
Yeah.
released a book at the height of his popularity on YouTube, probably to capitalize on what he's done and so on and so forth. And
Yeah.
like you said, the celebrity magicians that will be putting stuff out, but I can't think of many magicians or any at all that have like put a book out that's biographical in nature, or
Mhm.
you see it through, like Piff the Magic Dragon put out a book through Vanishing Ink, which was kind of
Yeah.
part sort of memoirs, but not really, part sort of
Mm.
teaching tricks, but not really. It was kind of like an
That's cute,
amalgamation
Biff.
of everything. Yeah, but
Yeah,
in
that's
terms of
good. Yeah.
books to the general public that
Yeah.
aren't big names like Mulhern or Darren Brown or whatever,
Okay, right. Yeah. Yeah. I can't
I
think of any.
can't
No.
really think of anybody, to be perfectly honest.
No. I mean, Darren Brown's got two. Well, he's got a bunch of books. He's got two magic books, two on philosophy and two just general reader books. And
Mm.
his two books for the general reader. I mean, they don't discuss techniques or anything like that at all. He kind of touches on them, but he does it in kind of an in character way, which is it's just fine. Um, and yeah, it's like he somehow managed to write about 100,000 words and not reveal anything about his techniques, and it works well. And now I get that he's the closest thing to a household name magician that we've got in Britain. But even so, I mean, the concept still applies to anyone else. I mean, look how many self-help books there is out there by no-name people. Look how many uh, books about business there are from some generic white guy CEO with a suit on the front cover, 10 steps to unlock your inner whatever. And like, I don't want to take advice off those just generic guys. What do they know? They sit in front of the desk all day. But the magician is out there in front of hundreds of people a night, blowing people away with simple prompts, learning how to control an audience in the moment. Learning people skills, learning, having to rely on his charisma. Things are going wrong all the time. He's having to think on his feet. That's the kind of person that you want to learn from. That's the kind of person that can teach you more about anything that anybody CEO could by some no-name paper company. But I mean, that's just my opinion on it, and people might disagree. And I'm sure magicians have got their own reasons for not wanting to, divulge their entire lives. But the magicians that I have talked to, who I've soft pitched this idea to, they've all said, you know what, those magicians would love this because weirdly, like I was saying, when I got started in magic and I needed mentorship, I needed someone to just to help me through someone to collaborate with me. I think a lot of people, not just magicians, will be the same about writing. I think they will approach writing as this huge big deal, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is so overwhelming. It's intimidating. I
Yeah.
don't know if I can put this into a format that will be readable." And like the magician that I was working with last year, he'd send me like a paragraph. He'd say, "Oh, read this. Is it rubbish? Is it crap? Would anyone care about this?" And like he was so kind of um, just submissive about the whole thing. He just thought it was all everything he did was rubbish, which was the way I felt about magic when I first started. You know, and but it's like and I was trying to say to him, no, it doesn't matter. It's like it hasn't got to be like you were saying. You don't have to have the most complex slides to do the best tricks. You don't have to have the most poetic prose in order to create something worth reading. All writing is get what's in your head into their head in the simplest way possible. That's it. You don't have to jazz it up with fancy words. You don't need a thesaurus to help you along the way. You just get what's in your head into theirs. Simple. And a lot of people don't realize that, magicians or not, or non-magicians. Yeah.
So, for any magicians that are watching this, two questions. First of all, it would take time and effort to release a book because you'd have to work collaboratively with somebody like you. It's
Yeah.
not something you could literally just go, okay, write me a book and come back to me in 3 months. So
Yeah.
it's going to take
Absolutely.
an effort on their part. So My question is, what's the benefit outside of being able to say, I've got a book? What's
Yeah.
the benefit of somebody doing this?
Multiple benefits. I mean, yeah, the number one benefit for most magicians in this case would be passive income. I think. I mean, that's the reason most people don't like to admit it, but it's the reason people write books is so that it sells regularly for the rest of their lives, and they can get maybe, well, I don't know, if it's a good sell, they get a few £100 or dollars a month just from doing nothing, from this couple of months, effort. That's the number one reason. Number two is that it is kind of cathartic to get everything of your life out onto the page, and
Yeah,
you can leave that as the guy the musician I recently worked with. He wanted to leave it as a gift to his kids and grandkids. When he's no longer here. So it was kind of like a memento, that he could leave once he's gone. Something that lives beyond your lifespan.
yeah.
And I think that is, and the other reason is to genuinely want to help other people. You genuinely want people to know what you've done. There's a little bit of ego in there as well. Let's not lie. There is a bit of an ego thing when it comes to getting your name out there. But I think any musician knows this anyway. So I mean, that's three of the main reasons. But I think really the fact that I mean, and it will help the magic industry as well. I mean, you get a magic book out into the mainstream, some non-magician is going to pick that up and go, you know what, this magic deal, maybe it's not just a bunch of nerds. Maybe it is pretty cool. I mean, it's rare, but someone might say that.
And do you think it's easy enough to, as somebody who does this professionally, do you think with the right content and with the right person, it'd be easy enough to skirt round the kind of the exposure side of things and still make it
Oh my god,
interesting? Do you reckon it could be? I mean, everyone's got their own definition on commercially viable, but do you think that a book on magic is commercially viable to the general public? That's a book on magic that doesn't even involve teaching them how magic works.
yeah, absolutely. Because there's so many other books that have been. I mean, if we're talking about it from a self-help perspective, I mean, the book doesn't have to be about magic. It could just be written by a magician, and it could be their life's experiences that teaches people a lesson on how to live, or
Yeah,
that's the way I would see it. So it could just be because there are loads of books like that already. Like I said, from business leaders and actors and musicians, all that crap. So it wouldn't have to be a book about magic. It would be a book by a magician who's using they could have stories from the craziest gigs they've ever done. They could have things have gone wrong on stage and what that teaches you and how to overcome it. It teaches you the resilience of the human spirit. There's loads of things like that it could be in there.
mm,
So I think it absolutely to say. I mean, commercially viable, like you say, is a broad term, and everyone will have their own definitions. And of course, I don't think a book like this would ever be up there with 50 Shades of Grey in terms of popularity. But there is no books like that anymore. Name the last book that permeated the mainstream. I can't name one. Not for a good 15 years or so, anyway. So we don't really get books like that because everything these days is kind of in its own niche. But niches are so vast now that it doesn't matter. Like the magic niche. Like one book, like people could sell hundreds of thousands of copies of one book just to magicians. So like niches
yeah,
are so vast now that there's no real mainstream when it comes to books. Like if you've heard of the biggest romantasy authors now, romantasy is the amalgamation of romance and fantasy. Now that genre is massive, but the people who I talk to in real life, they've never heard of it. Nobody knows that is. It's just a niche that's within itself. So and it would be the same in this regard, I imagine. But who knows? Maybe it could permeate the mainstream and penetrate the mainstream and get into 50 Shades of Grey territory. Who knows? But you got to take a chance, man. You got to someone's got to do it. That's the first thing.
have you worked with any magicians at any point?
Two in the past couple of years.
Okay.
Um, One was a full-time performer who has since retired, and the other one I'm still working with the other one, and he was a professional magician, and now he's kind of taken a step back, and he wants to do this because he's just what he would like I said, he just wants to get it all out on a page and kind of have a scrapbook of his life experiences. he's got a really cool angle for the whole thing. I can't tell you what the angle is because it's his creation. But he's kind of framed it all as a self-help thing, for a certain type of person, and it's a really cool frame that he's come up with. And the mission before that just wanted his again, he wanted to leave it to his kids and grandkids because he has had the stories he tells me that like an amazing life. He's performed overseas in Japan and Asia and all this stuff. Performed for the military, uh, and it was incredible. And when I was helping these people with these books, the process was so smooth as well because I genuinely wanted to make it as good as it could be. We were both two people working with the same goal, and the process was so much better than pretty much every other job I've done before, really. So it was pretty cool. And it's because I got such a passion about the whole thing and made it too. It was just so much fun, and I would love to do it again.
Wow.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. Anybody
Mm.
who's watching this interview, if they kind of think to themselves, you know what? I've got a book in me, but I need someone to help pull it out.
Excellent.
What roughly, I suppose two questions. One, how can they contact you? Because I imagine out of all the ghostwriters, working with somebody who understands magic would be the best of the best. So how can they contact you? And then secondly, I mean, don't give me exact figures because I imagine it's very much but it very much depends on the person and so on and so forth. But roughly, what sort of ballpark are we looking for when it comes to doing this for somebody?
Okay, so first question, they can go to joeturnerbooks.com and contact me through my website,
Right?
or they can contact me on joe_turner87 at outlook.com. Can we put it in the link for you, social and
Yeah,
stuff
I'll
like
put
that?
it in the link. No problem. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so you can contact me through there. Secondly, the figures one, well, it really depends on what they want. Now, first of all, if they've got an idea that they just want to write themselves, and they just want a bit of advice, and they maybe want some advice on formatting it or where they should best publish it, something like that, just come to me and talk to me, and I won't charge them just for advice. Okay, I'm not that much of a you know, I don't care that much. I'll happily help them to create the book. If it's just advice, I'll give it for free. If they want me to actually put the words on a page and do stuff like that, I mean, it depends on the whole. It depends. It's usually priced per word, and it can be anything from like an average book in this genre will be about 60,000 words. Generally, that could be anything from $5,000 usually to $10,000, depends on what it is. But it also depends on how much they want to write themselves. If it's just an editing process, it's a different price as well. If it's just like a formatting thing, job or a line editing job or a copy editing job, it's a different price as well. So
Mhm.
the whole book in general, is anything between it's usually £5,000 to £10,000 for any book that I do in general, right? So, but then again, I don't want to say that that's an exact figure because it's not always. It's all case dependent, and I like to think in most cases I'm pretty cheap as well. Like I'm not going to ask for six figures for a book like this or anything like that. So yeah, I like to think I keep it realistic. Um, so yeah, that kind of figure is what I generally get per book. I probably shouldn't reveal this really, but I guess I'm past the caring stage now. It doesn't
I
matter.
appreciate this. I really do.
Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah.
Um, so you said that you work primarily in the crime sort of genre. I imagine different ghostwriters specialize in different areas.
Yeah.
If you were doing something for a magician, would you be able to cross over okay, or would that magician have to like start, would that magician have to start including crime novels in their book they wanted to write? Do you know what I mean?
It would help. It would help if they did. No, it's fine. It's the job of the ghostwriter our job is to adapt to the writing style. We're kind of literary actors, really. We're playing the part of someone else and we put our style in it. So I've done many biographies before, and because I was a freelance reporter as well, I kind of still have that non-fiction style in me as well. So there's no issue on the writing style. I can pretty much adapt to it to anything. So that's no problem at all. But if they did want a crime novel written, then I'd be perfect for that as well. So yeah.
Wow.
But
So
how
in
did
a,
you find? How,
sorry,
sorry, how did you find the writing for your book, by the way?
I didn't write it at all. I had a ghostwriter, but we've been very open about that. So, do you know
Who was
Eric
it?
Tate? Do you know Eric Tate from Penguin Magic?
TAIT.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
know the guy.
Eric is like the face of Penguin Magic. He's
Yeah,
a award-winning magician. He's
yeah. I
and
know
he's
the guy. I got one of
a
his tricks.
writer.
I'll
He
show you.
writes, yeah, he writes all the ad copy for Penguin. He was a professional writer before he started working for Penguin. Well, he actually works with Penguin as a ghostwriter on several books as well. But
Oh
we're talking
wow.
magic books is what we're talking here. We're talking about
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
actual tricks for
yeah.
magicians. So I saw lots and lots of videos and collaborated a lot over the course of a year with Eric. He
Yeah.
always said that he needs therapy for the rest of his life because he spent a year living in my head. So,
Oh, I can get that. I can get that. Yeah, yeah,
so yeah, I didn't have, when Penguin approached me about the book, I was like, look, I just haven't got time for this. And they're like, don't worry about it.
yeah.
We'll get Eric to work with you. So, I
Perfect
didn't.
example. Yeah,
Hmm.
perfect example of what I was talking about. It's like ask Eric who does the illustrations for the little, when they show you where to put your fingers and stuff. Who does those illustrations?
I
Because
don't
you
know.
got to know pretty specifically like what to do. Like Eric can't do that himself, but I'm guessing you didn't do it. So that's what I've always wondered in magic books. Even in the Royal Road, who draws those illustrations? Yeah, all good. So,
These
that's
days,
it. That's
these
what
days, the illustrations are made a little bit easier by something like ChatGPT. You can take a picture of how your hand should be and say
yeah,
convert to a line drawing, and it can do that fairly easily. But
yeah. That's another issue. The whole AI issue.
I was
Yeah,
about to say, me bringing up ChatGPT to somebody that's a creative is probably
we
something
don't
that you
like
don't
that.
want to hear.
We like AI in the kind of sense that it will advance medicine and science and stuff, but we don't like it when it takes our jobs. So yeah, but that's another
Yeah,
reason I need to be a magician because a machine is not taking a magician's job anytime soon. So,
I don't know. Have you seen Mario the Maker? He's
yes, I have. Yeah, apparently Teller has got a bear that does magic tricks, a mechanical bear. So that's another concern for us. So yeah, maybe it will. Oh well,
yeah, you
we'll
never
shall
know. You never know.
see.
But I
We
think we're
shall see.
safe for now. I think we're safe for now. So,
Yeah, fair enough.
if somebody can afford it, if their book was not that like we've already talked, that there's a lot of benefits to writing a book. It's not just about financial gain at all by any stretch of imagination. But I know a lot of people do think like that. So, if somebody was to write a book or ghostwrite a book, and it was, moderately successful, not a blockbuster by any stretch of the imagination, but a few people bought it. What would they be looking to? Do you like how much money could they make, say, in the first year, and then as kind of a recurring thing after that?
Okay, so the most money made with a book is the initial advance. So when you submit it to a publisher, they will say, yes, we want this. And then they give you the advance, which is, I don't know if you know how that works. It's quite boring, so I don't explain too much, but they will give you a lump sum of money and then you pay back that advance in sales. So, for example, you get £100 advance, which is very low, just for argument's sake, and then your book costs £10. So they would have to sell 10 copies before you started making royalties. You have to pay the advance back as it works. So your advances can be anything from 10 grand to 200 grand. They can be
Mhm.
quite. It all depends on how much the publisher thinks they can sell this book. So if you're going the traditional route, which is traditional publishing, the if it's a good enough book and the publisher wants to take a chance on it, you can make a good 100% return immediately just off the advance, right? You can make quite a bit of money off that. and then recurring monthly. It will depend on the sales, of course, but for an average book, you could probably make a few £100 a month off sales, provided it does well. Um, and the advantages that magicians have got is that you're all kind of well connected. You know, you're all kind of pretty much
Very
in
well
the same.
networked, yeah.
Yeah. So, and once a book gets out there and one magician says it's good, that's when a whole bunch of other magicians will buy it too. So this niche does that have that advantage. And of course, that again, if the book is in the general reader sphere, that will have a snowball effect on that as well. So because
Yeah.
it's got like great reviews on Amazon or something, a load of other people that aren't magicians will see those reviews and go, "Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. I will get this." So I think reasonably, you could probably make a few £100 a month in passive income, provided that. I mean, that's kind of what I make from my own books as well. But I have six of them, and they've been out for years, so the initial hype has died down and stuff. But I think in this kind of niche, people are always looking for books of this style, right? They're always looking for books that touch on these subjects. People are always looking to improve, and the self-help market is so big at the minute, um, and the business market is so big at the minute as well. So I think if a magician had the right frame, the right composition, a book like this could do amazingly well. And I'm just waiting for someone to take the opportunity. And I wish I could do it myself, and I would do it myself if I had more experience in the magic world. If I'd been doing gigs for years, I would totally do this myself. But I just don't have that experience. I don't have the funny stories. I don't have the things that have gone wrong on stage. Not yet, anyway. I might have it in a month's time. So ask me then.
Well, it's funny, I don't know if you know this about me as well as everything else I do. I'm a motivational speaker and I get booked to do
Yeah.
uh, motivational speaking quite often. And one of the main things that people book me for are events for SMEs, small to medium sized businesses. And
Mm.
I do a whole talk on what a business owner can learn from a professional magician. And I've got loads of stuff that professional magicians do and how
Yeah.
that applies to business, which is kind of it's took me around the world doing that talk, to be perfectly honest, but
That's
it's
great.
interesting because it feels to the audience that are watching it that I'm pulling the curtain back and giving them a sneak peek behind the curtain. In reality, they're learning nothing, but it's telling these stories about magic that become the jumping off point to then transition into kind of tips about business and how to be more successful running a business.
Ah, have you got any videos of that? Because that would be so. I'd love to hear that. If you've got
Yeah,
any.
somewhere.
Well,
I'll send something over to you. Yeah.
yeah, please. That's fascinating stuff. So what you let them think that you're showing them how sausages are made, but then you kind of say, or you just don't tell
No,
them it's not.
I'll show them a trick, and then so for example, one of the things I do, a very quick thing, is I'll bring out a Rubik's cube and I'll say, now this is a Rubik's cube. We've all got one of these at home. There's six sides to a Rubik's cube, and the idea is very simple. The more you mix this up, the harder it is to solve. There's 47 quintillion different combinations with a Rubik's cube, which is an awful lot. Now I could mix this over and over again, and it's going to get more and more mixed up and more mixed up. If I wanted to solve this, all I'd have to do is take it, hold it like this, give it a little shake, and it's going to solve. Now you're probably thinking, why am I standing here showing you a little trick with the Rubik's Cube? Well, the thing is, one of the things that magicians sorry, one of the things that business owners are most worried about is succeeding in business. You see, a lot of business owners quit. It's a scary statistic that in the first 20% of business owners, sorry, 80% of businesses will fail in the first 5 years. And out of those 20% that succeed, only 20% of those businesses will achieve their full potential. So most businesses are going to either die or they're going to just kind of get by. And I think the
Yeah.
reason is a lot of the time because when you get into business, you have a clear plan. You have a business plan, and you know what that plan should look like. It's a little bit like a Rubik's Cube. You know what a Rubik's Cube should look like. It looks like this, right? It's like a plan. You decide that you're going to have a business, and you go, right, okay, I've got a business. I know what it's meant to look like. Then what happens is you start making decisions within that business. And you
Yeah.
start making decisions that you didn't think you were going to make. And what
Yeah.
happens is when you make those decisions, it's a little bit like mixing up a Rubik's Cube. The more decisions that you make, you end up looking at this business and you thought you knew exactly what it was going to look like. but it ends up looking like nothing. It ends up looking like nothing like you thought it was going to look like at all. And so you're then forced to make other decisions,
Very true.
and you end up looking at it in every single direction. And the reason so many business owners quit is because, frankly, they never think that they can get this to look like it's meant to look like. But the thing is, what you have to understand is a Rubik's Cube is only ever 20 moves away from being solved. It doesn't matter how much you mix it up. It's called God's number. Google it. It's only ever 20%. It's only ever 20 moves away from being sold. The key thing is knowing the moves and having belief in yourself, having a belief that if you know those moves and you execute them, then it will eventually be successful. Like I look at this, for example, and I know that this is 16 moves away from being solved. Watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It's only 16 moves away from being solved. But I know the moves, and I believe that if I action those moves, I'm going to be successful. It's the same with a business. You're closer to success
Oh,
than you think. You're always closer to success than you think. You just have to educate yourself to know what you're meant to be doing and then have blind faith that if you do that, you're going to be successful. So the next time you are in your business and you're struggling and you don't know how to get ahead, all I want you to do is think about a Rubik's Cube, and then that is going to bring you close to success and you won't even realize it. So that's like one little thing. So it's infusing
hey, that was good.
whatever.
That was good. I'm
It's about
inspired, man.
yeah, it's about taking tricks and showing them a trick or telling them about something to do with magic and then applying a business lesson to that. That's kind of the what
That's
I do.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I like that. I
Yeah.
like. Yeah, I've been working as one trick. Let me know what you think. It might be quite stupid, but have you ever seen Morton Christensen's jumbo card trick?
Yes, I have. I reviewed it. I
Yeah.
gave it a good review. It's a great.
I was thinking about doing this thing where I show the illusion of choice. Like in a corporation, sometimes we'll show the illusion of choice. Like there'll be multiple coffees on a shelf, but really it's all like the same manufacturers making it. So I say to someone, I say, pick a side, left or right, and they'll just say right. And I'll say, well, my right is your left. Your left is my right. So it doesn't matter which one you pick. I can always make you pick the one I want. And then going from there and just keep kind of going through and doing that until there's one card left, and then it kind of matching
Mm,
the big card. And I thought that would be quite
great
interesting.
idea.
Like
That's
it's not
a really
really
good idea.
like it's not really getting like it is kind of showing the illusion of choice, but it's not giving you the magician's choice. I mean it is, but it's not showing them that that's how we do things. It's kind of framing it as someone else's idea. So
Yeah.
I thought that'd be a pretty good idea. That's for my stage show, by the
Yeah.
way, that I'm going to be doing soon. So I'm hoping that works out well. Yeah,
That's
well,
amazing.
a good
This has
idea.
been super fun. So I've got one more question for you, which
Yeah.
is you've been very successful as a ghostwriter. You're now starting to gig professionally, doing close-up shows, doing a stage show. So my question is, what goals and aspirations do you have outside of what you've done, both within magic and outside of magic? What's on your magical bucket list and your non-magical bucket list that you want to achieve in the coming months and years?
That is a great question. And you know what? I never think about this. I always just kind of do it in the moment. I never think about it. Um, my in writing terms, I think I want to release my own novel under a pretty big publisher. And believe it or not, it's quite hard to do, even though I work for the goddamn publishers that have put these things out. So I already work for them, but it's still hard to get my own name in there to make something under my own name. So that's my next goal. I want to get, and actually I'm thinking about. You might be able to help me with this. Actually, I'm thinking about doing a book about a magician serial murderer, and he's killing people based on old magical urban legends. But I don't know of any magical urban legends, so I'm hoping someone could help me with that. Someone with more of a magic history knowledge on that. That's my next one. And then magic wise, I think I really want to join I've just joined the Shropshire Magical Society, which is a very, very welcoming community. And some of the guys know you too as well. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Um,
Oh, great.
yeah, they do. They do, yeah. One of the guys there, Steve, who's the treasurer, who's talking about meeting your son. I think, a couple of years ago at a dinner somewhere. So yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. That sounds
Um,
about right. He performed everywhere.
yeah. So I just joined them. I want to join the Midlands Magic Circle. There's one in Wolverhampton, one in Birmingham. I want to join those ones. And then, I mean, I don't know. I think I just want to do more shows really, because I don't think I'm at the point where. I mean, it's weird because like you're a confident guy, right? You can just go up to a table of 20 people and just start doing tricks without no shaky hands or anything like that, right? I'm not at that point yet. I still get a little bit of nerves. I mean, writing, I'm the equivalent of you with magic in writing, you know. So I can just start writing anything, and I'm pretty sure it'll be okay. But I'm still not at the point where I can just go and integrate and just perform without having to second guess myself, you know. So I kind of want to do a bit more of that just to get comfortable with it. And then I do like the gigging lifestyle. You know, it's pretty cool just having to go out there for an hour and entertain and just, you know, have a great time. It's more fun than sitting at your desk for 12 hours a day. So I do kind of want to do that more. So I'm going to keep it pretty realistic for the time being and just say that those two are probably my goals. What are your goals? That's what I want to
Oh, I have millions.
know.
Performing more
Yeah,
abroad, lecture tours abroad, conventions, that sort of thing. I just keep going. I've got thousands of goals, and I just keep pushing towards. Some of
that's
them
the
from
way to
time to
be,
time.
isn't it? That's
Absolutely.
the way to be. I like it. Yeah, cool.
I
Yeah,
will. I will very
that's what I
quickly, just to give you a little starting point. So there was an urban legend
Oh,
that you
okay, yeah.
might want to start with about Houdini. So Houdini, the only
Okay,
reason I know this is because I'm actually doing a 5x5 on my channel about urban legends in magic. So I've been researching this the last couple of weeks. So
perfect.
so the code from the dead. So Houdini, basically, legend has it that Houdini promised his wife Bess that he'd send her a secret code from beyond the grave.
Compare the great.
Feel it's
Yes.
true and it was real. And after his death, she held seances waiting for the word, and many urban legends claim she did receive it one night on the anniversary of his death, but no verified account exists.
Was was it the night when they did it on top of the hotel? I think I know that one. They did the seance on top of the hotel in Las Vegas, I think. And then
I'm
she
not too sure
claimed that
about
she.
that.
Oh, okay. I'm overthinking as well. There was another one that you might be able to find. Now, I found this years ago, and it was
Mhm.
about a father who has twin sons, and he's doing a transfer, a metamorphosis trick, and in the process, one of them has to be killed, and then the other one comes out of another cabinet. So that's another urban legend, and it's pretty dark. So,
Um,
and I hope it's not true. I hope there's no truth to that one. Yeah, it's kind of
well,
a prestige thing. Yeah,
you
but no,
never know.
no, but no, that's a great idea for a 5x5, and I look forward to hearing that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's something I've been researching. So yeah, look out for it in the next few weeks.
yeah,
But
cool.
yeah, you know what, Joe? This has been an incredible interview. I always knew it would
Thank you.
be. So thank you very much for jumping on the channel.
Oh,
Very
thank you
different
very much.
to anything that we've done before, but I hope that anyone that's watched this um, kind of reaches out to you because you are right. One of the things that I try to do on this channel is get more people into magic. I believe that,
Yes.
more people coming into magic is a good thing. It's a good thing for everybody. And if we can
Yeah,
have more books out there about magicians, about magic,
yeah,
then that's not a bad thing at
yeah,
all. The
exactly.
more
And it shouldn't just be left up to Darren Brown and Dynamo and David Blaine and Chris Angel to kind of inspire the next generation. You know, there needs to be someone else out there in the mainstream, even if they're not as famous as them, just trying to pull more people in. You know.
I agree completely. So now it's over to you watching this. If you have a story in you and you think that you've got a book and you would like to release it and you need help, then reach out to Joe. I'm going to put down below in the description everything that you need to reach out to him. And also do me a favor and leave a comment down below. Let Joe know what you thought. And yeah, you said you've got a stage gig. Is it a public show? So when is it?
Yeah, 40, 50 people. The 17th of October in a village hall. So I've got some tricks together. I'm doing. to see what I'm doing. I'm doing Andy Nyman's big reaction. I thought, how wrong can that go? You know? How-
Great trick.
And I'm going to do a little. I'm going to do a little mind reading trick, which is basically a force and a double lift and a top change. So I was like, that'd be pretty good. Morton Christensen's jumbo card trick, sheer luck, Sean Parquar, and then if you do know color psychology by Adam Wilber,
Yes.
but I'll do that one. But how wrong can they go? And then I'm going to go table to table and knock them dead, so to speak.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So where can people get
How
tickets if
wrong
they
can
want to come and watch?
Oh, it's a closed door thing. It's for the community of this place. So it's just for the elite of Much Wenlock. If you ever know where
Well,
that
there you
is.
go. Well, it's a very posh place in Shropshire. Yeah. So
Oh,
there you go.
well,
There you go. Well, I hope
no,
you do
thank you.
well at that start of
Thank you.
gigs. And one
Thank
more
you.
time,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Joe, for coming on the channel
No, thank you.
and about everything that you do.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Guys,
No,
leave a comment down below. Reach out to Joe if you think you've got a book in you. I'll be back again next Saturday with another Talk Magic. Until then, my name's Craig. This is Joe Turner. You have been watching Magic TV, and we'll see you again soon.